increase the cost of production. And as we said, what is called break-even cut-off grade, when revenues are equals to cost. What you spend is what you get. No one wants to do a business when you're just breaking even, right? Everyone wants to make breaking. And that's something that we're going to discuss today. So cost curve is something very, very important. What part of cost curve you are able to keep your mind operating? And that will make the entire economics work for you, right? So the siloed means everyone used to work, you know silos, right? You have seen silos. Have you seen silos? Where did you see silos? Huh? How do silos look? Where the silo came from? Yes, like, you know, something that looks like this. That's called silo, right? And then you put material into silos. So you think that that's it. Like, everyone is concerned about their meeting the targets. Geologists think, okay, I have to explore, I have to discover more. That's it, my job. But whether that's good quality grade or bad quality, whether that has impurities, all that is immaterial. And then mining engineers, okay, what volume of rock I'm blasting. And then one thing, when you're talking of mine to mill, or other concept is called pit to port, or mine to market. And I was telling the example of when I began my career in Goa. So Goa, those days, the main buyers of our product, which is iron ore, compared to most critical minerals, iron ore is very well rich in concentration. We said that it could be anywhere between 55% Fe to 70% Fe. If you get 70%, that means only 30% you have to throw as waste or tailings, right? The market that existed back in those days, I'm talking of mid to late 90s, Japan, Korea, EU, Europe. These are the three markets that we used to send our shipments to. And they were very strict on what quality parameters that they expect to achieve. So one is Fe grade is very important, but there are a couple of other impurities that used to be part of it, which are, any ideas, any guess? What are the impurities? Silica, alumina, and?
Some titanium, some very micro
composites.
Phosphorus.
So these are the penalty pollutants, or penalty metals they used to call them. So if you have them, then your blast furnace efficiency will drop like boom. So you may have a very rich grade of iron, but if you have these constituent gangue minerals, we call them as gangue, G-A-U-N-G-E. What do we write? What is the spelling? G-A-U-N-G-E, gangue minerals. So if you have them, they are called penalty metals. They will attract penalties. Penalty, like, if you do something wrong, the traffic police will apply penalty, right? Because blast furnaces, as we discussed yesterday, they operate at about 1,500 degrees Celsius temperatures. Energy is cost, right? So if you add any impurities, then what will happen is, if they are operating at 90% efficiency, they will drop down to 70. So that means it's a substantial loss, that you are incurring. And hence, what should happen is, if everyone does their own job well, what will happen is, you will get the type of material that your mill requires. So you want very consistent size fraction of material to your mill. So what that means, what mining guys have to do at the mines, they have to break the rock into pieces, uniform pieces of size, so that your grinding, crushing, everything will work effectively. And when you liberate the material here, then rest of the processes will become economical. And that's exactly where the cut-off grade and that governing equation, everything will work properly. So how did you go about, before we start, how did you go about your assignments yesterday? Did you spend some time reading the material that I sent? How many of you read the articles that I shared? Oh, good. All of them? No? Huh? Had it been my regular class, I would have fired every one of you. Huh? Anyway, but just take time to just read, because see, you come all the way to learn something, right? And you learn it the best way. And the best learning outcome, the best learning experience you will achieve. See, I want all of you to become world experts, like Professor Narasimha was talking about, right? You have to invest your time reading stuff. I think they're all 5-minute articles that I sent you. I did not send you the typical, the research papers. I know that you will be short of time. Anyway, read that. But there was another activity that you were to take home, homework activity. Did you complete that? Huh? Okay. Which group wants to go first? Did you know what we were doing? Were you there last evening? Oh, you went for labs. Okay. You were also not there. Oh, you were here, right? Okay. So we were doing a tutorial activity where we were trying to do some number crunching about what we hold in terms of our mineral endowment in the country. Yeah? There were some databases that they were kind of surfing and then trying to get some information. Maybe you could liaise with one of them to understand. Did you get the tutorial sheet, by the way? Do you have one extra one, what we did yesterday? Can you give it to me? Just work at your own pace, huh? But do that. So who's going first? Come on. Yeah? Are you okay? You have HDMI. You have HDMI thing here?
Yeah, we have. Yes.
HDMI, right?
Yes, it's there.
Okay. We'll do a quick 1 minute each kind of thing. Okay, 1 minute. Can I close this? Is that okay? Leave it, that's okay.
Hi everyone. So our first job was to select 6 minerals from the CSIR list, and from that we have
That is for online people. Just hold it here, close to your.
And from that list, we have selected lithium, graphite, which is natural, titanium. They have two variants, ilmenite and rutile. I also got to know yesterday, and aluminum. And aluminum reserves. And these are important for making lightweight, strong materials that improve energy efficiency in transport and aerospace. And graphite. So India's share is only 2.5% here, while it has some deposits. So it's not a major global supply for it. And lastly, for the phosphorus, India has just 0.05% of global reserves. And again, it makes us highly dependent on imports for all the kinds of fertilizers, and which is indirectly linked to the bioenergy sectors. Yesterday only we were talking about biofuels. So I think that's how phosphorus comes into play as a major player. And overall, what we can see that from the very brief data that we have analyzed that so India is well positioned in some of the critical minerals, especially manganese, lithium, titanium, and aluminum. And so they are essential for clean energy transition. And we have already achieved 50% of renewable energy transition. I think if we able to use our reserves effectively, scientifically, probably the 100%, the goal of 100% could be achieved quite early. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. We will try to understand. Thanks for that, and we'll try to fit it this afternoon. Yeah. So today again we will look at a few more concepts around. So I want to, before I start, I want to acknowledge two of my, of course, one of my stellar colleague who is a world-renowned strategic mine planning expert, and he spent working about 10 years, about 15 years within BHP, and that time it was BHP Billiton. And now he has his own consulting company, and he started working as senior research fellow in my team, and then later on he became a professor of practice, and he did his PhD quite late in his career. For example, about a few years back from Melbourne University, and he used to work for BHP, and he used to look after BHP's global strategic mine planning requirements. a terrific researcher and thought leader and so on and so forth, and also associate professor Vespignani, yeah, and he is an associate professor at the University of Tasmania. So I'm sharing some of our combined wisdom in today's kind of talk.
What's macroeconomics of critical minerals?
Sorry?
Macroeconomics of critical minerals farming. Previous this paper. Strategy of critical minerals.
Yes. Have you read that paper? Yeah. What's this? Yeah. So again, just wanted to draw your attention to some of the key attributes or key flaws of critical minerals. We have been repeatedly kind of touching upon some of these. So critical minerals, unlike mainstream minerals, suffer from some market flaws. What are they? Too much market concentration, not much of information is available. Their price sensitivity, yeah. Demand is more and supply is less, yeah. Processing costs are high. They are not evenly spread, yeah. Technological barriers. What else? Absolutely, that's one of the key underpinnings, right? And also volatility and unpredictable commodity prices. Highly regulated. Not so, yeah, of course, with China being a monopoly in this, I think China regulates. So, for example, currently, as the world is witnessing rare earth export bans from China, and likewise, time to time, they have imposed number of restrictions for material to go out of the country. So these are very, very important. So yesterday we were talking about royalties, right? So not everyone is familiar. I thought I'll give you a couple of examples here. So for example, calculate the yearly royalty paid. Who gets the royalty paid? Government. So royalty you pay, so for example, in GST, right? For everything that you, whether it is a good or service, you pay GST. In your tax invoice, you get GST. So like GST, royalty is something that governments have to pay. And my friend here, we were talking about what used to happen. For example, a lot of silica used to go based on volume calculations. You send a lot of silica, but when it comes to paying royalty, you pay peanuts to the government. So there's a lot of that dodgy practices used to happen. So calculate the yearly royalty paid at 0.35 per ton. Do you know the difference between TON and TONNE?
Yeah. The metric ton it is 1000 kg,
Yeah.
but ton it is coming roughly 800.
Yeah, so generally the way they are written is, one is TON, which is America, which is, what is that system? Imperial system. We use which system? SI, right? SI units are metric units, metric system. One is imperial, which is ton, which is not 1000 kilograms, and which we use TONNE, 1000 kilograms, kgs. This is the ton that we use in India. This is Europe, parts of Europe and America, and also South America, they use that, yeah. So, per ton with a sale price of 170 per ton and annual production of 1000. MT means what? Or million tons. It could be also million tons, right? It's mainly million tons, not metric tons. Million metric tons, they call it, to be more explicit. Million metric tons, yeah? Because anyway, by default, we are using metric system, so it's million tons. Million is how much? 10 lakhs. 10 raised to 6. Billion is 10 raised to 9. Yeah. So let us quickly look at, why this is not working for some reason. So what royalty government gets paid? It's simply, there are many royalty systems, simple royalty, ad valorem, and so on and so forth. So there are two methods that I have shown here. So it is a simple rate into production in tons. Rate is how much? 0.035, which is that per ton you are using, and so many million tons. And then if the ore grade is 60%, you are saying. So here we are talking of the case of iron ore, for example. Yeah, typically iron ore is in that range, right? We are saying anywhere between 55 to 70 Fe content. So that's how you calculate. 21 million is what you pay royalty for that shipment. And likewise, every time you extract, you'll have to pay on the same basis. Right? That's one calculation. Just to, because understanding, theoretical understanding of royalty or royalty is similar to GST, but how exactly it is calculated, I thought, I'll use an example like this. Here is another example. Calculate the royalty paid within an year in AUD means Australian dollars. How do you write US? USD, right? USD. With a rate of 4% X mine value, the sale price is 1,720 USD per troy ounce. By the way, do you know, in some cases we are using tons, some cases we are using percentages, in some cases we are using grams per ton, in some cases we are using ounces. Even to express, in some cases we use ppm. Most critical minerals we use ppm. In some cases we use ppb, parts per billion. Can someone tell me what is the ppm and gram equivalent, grams per ton equivalent? Anyway, these are some conversions that you can learn. There are a lot of online calculators.
10^3 milligrams. ppm is 10^6 milligrams. ppb is 10^9 milligrams.
Absolutely, brilliant. Simple, right? So all engineers should be having this on their fingertips. So again, ounce is troy ounce. Ounces are used for gold. Gold is always used in ounces. Gold grades are expressed in grams per ton. Copper grades are expressed in percentage. Iron ore, percentage. When the concentration goes up, you express them in percentage. When concentration is very tiny, you express in grams per ton or ppm. So most cases, when it comes to critical minerals, we express them in ppm or ppb in many cases, right? And then extracts 1.3 million tons of ore per year with a grade of 10 grams per ton, 10 grams per ton. So that's surely a gold, grams per ton. Silver is grams per ton. Platinum is grams per ton. Zinc is percentage. Copper is percentage. Lead is percentage. Aluminum is percentage. Typically, aluminum you get about 20%. Lead, zinc about 11%. Copper about 2%. Iron about 60%, likewise, to be economically extractable. So again, how much royalty goes into government? 34 million, close to 34 million Australian dollars. So that's how you calculate the royalty. And again, different systems are used. So for example, in India also we use ad valorem method to calculate the royalties that gets paid to the governments, right? So this is one thing that I wanted to show. So one is quantity produced times recovery, percentage recovery we were talking about. Mostly precious metals, it is in the range of 95 to 98%. Gold, platinum, silver are precious metals. What are the base metals? What are precious metals? What are base metals? What are critical metals? Precious what? Gold, silver, platinum. Precious, yeah. How do you write gold? AU, AG, PT. So these are precious. And the other one is base metals. What are they? Copper, lead, zinc, chromium, etc. And then there's also ferrous metals. Actually, chromium comes under ferrous metal. Yeah, ferrous metals, non-ferrous metals. And likewise, you can have a number of those kind of, and critical minerals, right? And then you also have got precious, base, ferrous, non-ferrous, critical, yeah, likewise.
These are metals.
Metals. And then you got minerals,
See,
coal, limestone, they come under minerals category. Yeah, coal is a mineral, right? Not a metal. So 90% recovery, and then that's a conversion factor divided by 31.1. So from million grams to ounces, if you were to convert, that is the conversion factor, and likewise you calculate. Okay. The other thing that I wanted to kind of bring it to you, we were also talking quite a lot about is the recovery percentages, right? So typically, as we have seen, you got mining, milling, and milling is where you have a lot of rejects. What are those rejects? They are called tailings, right? Or mainly gangue minerals go as part of tailings, right? So how do you calculate the percentage of recovery? We were talking a lot about percentage of recovery, right? Generally, for precious metals, we get in the range of 92 to 98%. And for base and other metals, we are generally in the range of 80 to 92%. Yeah? So what you are saying is concentrate grade divided by feed grade times feed minus tails grade divided by concentrate minus tails grade. So generally, these are quite negligible compared to this. This is quite negligible compared to this. This is quite negligible. So you can almost cancel it out. Tails grade compared to your concentrate grade, tails grade compared to your feed grade is quite negligible. So generally, you can strike them off. It is this by this. That would give you your recovery rate, right? Just start, because this is not only a research seminar, right? This is also a seminar to equip you with basic skills. So I thought I'll give you some examples here, like as if I'm treating you as my students, which you are anyway, right? And the other important concept is the cutoff grade that I spoke of, the grade at which you can make profits. What is the equation? Again, the equation is nothing but we have been talking about cost, price, and recovery, function of cost, price, and recovery. But how do you mathematically express it? M, which is mining and milling cost, dollar per ton. Again, we don't generally take sales, but price we take, which is the sale price of the commodity, dollar per ton again, times recovery. Sorry, yeah, percentage of recovery. Is that clear now, what we were speaking so far?
is it a general formula or?
No, everywhere. That's the same formula. So generally, the very simplified formula looks like this, as I was writing a couple of times. COG, cutoff grade, equals to cost by price times recovery. It's as simple as that. So this is a little bit nerdy, guys, they write it that way. To simplify further mathematically, you can express that cost, price, and recovery. Right? Cost is your mining and milling cost, and then your price is your sales price, and then etc., and then recovery is your process recovery. And as we said, process recoveries for precious metals is quite high. That means your tails, what you would end up losing in your tails would be around 0.2%. 98% recovery. Again, we were talking about Kolar goldfields, right? Kolar goldfields now is becoming
Cost.
workable. One of the advantage dealing with tailings is tailings are already crushed and ground. So you don't have to expend the same amount of energy that you would normally do for rocks. Rocks are something that you get out of your mine, right? Drilling and blasting. So you get them in, say, this kind of size fraction. And then what you do, you put them through the milling, grinding, crushing, and then you bring it to what consistency we said? Talcum powder. Just imagine, that Pond's talcum powder. Sometimes it's even less, as Professor Narasimha was talking about. What was 1 micron, right? 1 to 20 micron. Micron is you can't see, right, with naked eye. Can you see it? No. Very tiny. So that tiny material that you have to kind of convert that into. So that's a formula, right? So then we look at one simple example here. Again, I've taken an example to give you a better feel of how you calculate. Estimate the unit profit, dollar per ton, and the cutoff grade of a copper ore body with 0.6% by weight of copper if the selling price of the copper in the concentrate is $1.63 a kilo. I think mostly they are all US dollars. Assuming that the overall cost of mining and processing is about $6.80 per ton, and the overall recovery is about 92%. That's a simple mathematical, formulation. So gross value, how you calculate grade times recovery, which is your 92%. Grade is what? 0.6%. That means 0.006, right? Times you got some conversion factor. So that will give you gross value of the concentrate per ton is about $9. That's how you calculate. 1,000 kg per ton. That's right. Yeah, 1,000 kg per ton. So you got 1,000 kgs in 1 ton. That's a conversion factor. Therefore, the profit is gross value minus cost, simply. Can you see that? Yeah, gross value minus cost. So profit is how much? Per ton you are making about $2.2. So again, you are making this equation work for you. Profits are revenue minus cost. So your revenues are exceeding your costs. So that's why you are making some profit there. And then again, cutoff grade as per our formula, cost divided by price times recovery. Cost is so much, $6.8 a ton, divided by $1.63 per kg. Cost by price. What is the price? Sorry. Price is 1.63 per kg. Does it make sense, or there's some mistake in the calculation? Is it right? Are there any issues there?
So if there is some other material in place of copper, so the conversion factor would change, right?
No, conversion factor is only for that kgs to kgs to ton. In 1 ton, you got 1,000 kgs, right? 1 metric ton is 1,000 kilograms. That's what you are saying. because this is 1.63 per kilogram. You want it per ton. So hence you are dividing it by 1000.
Ore body or the concentrate of the
Concentrate. Is that right? Simple, understood now? Yeah? Just so that the idea gets further reinforced rather than touching upon, okay, this is concentrate, this is recovery rate, this is cutoff grade. So I thought to include some of that. So what is the cutoff grade? 0.5% of copper. So in a typical mining area could be, say, around 100 hectares. This is my 100 hectares tenement. Or not, okay, 100 hectares is reasonable, right? In which your ore body gets, see, ore body is not continuous. Unlike coal, in coal generally you have got a continuous seam, right? But in most metalliferous deposits, again, iron ore also is similar like coal, limestone also is bedded deposit, right? But most base and precious metals, you will have lodes and veins, right? You know that, right? Like that, they'll be spread, and then they will go deeper, tubular. Sometimes it's like tube, it goes like below. So here you may have, say, 0.75%. So that's profitably extractable. So again, we call it as ore. What is that ore? No, what was that we call? Proved results, right? Proved, probable, inferred. Going back to what we did yesterday, right? So that's that. But again, the next to that itself, there's a patch which is 0.25%. That means you cannot mine that. So that is where exploration geologists will prepare this for you, and then mining guys will come and say, okay, I will not extract this, but I will extract this. But you cannot do that, right? So that is where mine to mill, pit to port, right? And then mine to market concepts have come into existence. What exploration geologists do will be used by mining engineers, and what mining engineers do will be used by processing engineers, chemical engineers at the plant, because they want the best grade, so that you use less reagents, less crushing, less grinding. And again, we'll talk about some of the important transitions that industry has seen in my own career, if you look at, right? For example, again, I cut the story of Goa a bit short, but what used to happen is when Japanese and Koreans and Europeans were the buyers, they were very strict on what grade percentages that they were expecting. And they were also expecting you should not have phosphorus, you should not have alumina, you should not have silica, because they are penalty metals. Then you do process to get them out of that. But not only that, then they used to get lumpy ore and then powdery ore. Blue dust we used to call those days. One is powdery. Powdery is not good for blast furnace. Efficiency goes down again. Lumps are very good. Lumpy. Lumps mean like the pebbles. Just imagine like pebbles. So we used to mix them, blend them together to achieve whatever specification that they wanted. So these are all the things that we do at mine sites quite often. So that's that, and that's we talked about royalty, we talked about recovery, we talked about cutoff grade.
As I said previously, at the starting of this presentation, if everyone worked together coordinatively, then everything, the cost is will come down.
Yeah.
I'd like to know what is the existing situation, because as Professor Narasimha said in the previous lecture, the ultrafine grinders have some grinding media specifications and the feed specification. If it can be worked from the ore mining itself, everything will be in the order. Is existing like processor in that sense, or like everyone is doing their own way of getting things?
That's a very good question, and the answer is there in your question itself, right? What is the prime driver, prime mover? Yeah, it's dollar per ton. Survival of the fittest. If you can't meet, see why China is able to do it, why West is not able to do it, or why rest of the world is not able to do it. They can produce it almost at throwaway price. Again, we are getting into that next part of the equation, next part of the presentation.
Professor rightly pointed out, China got a strategic implementation of the mining. Whereas in India, you come, you do the mining for 5 years, you try to extract more, you put the overburden, like whatever, tiling or ready, dump it in the mine. So the next item there, I extract whatever is most profitable to me and then I give the time. So this way, we are screwing up all the industry mines. Whereas in China, if you go to any mine, then you have every mineral or every component or ingredient of that particular zone. They're not discarded. Whereas here, you'll be doing for 5 years, 20 years, 20 years, and I will 10 years. So you'll do whatever you want, he'll do whatever you want, I'll do whatever I want. And that way we are, even many tilings are having huge deposits in India. In terms of China, they are very clear. Here you have to submit a mining plan to IBM every year. How much was extracted? If I extracted 1 lakh tons, I'll be showing 2,000 tons in the record. So there's a huge disparity in the technical execution.
How it's
No, let us not blame our own governments, right? So, our government is paying us to learn this, and then if you say, anyway, I'm not saying that we should not do it. No, we should do it. Because our part is not to say that everything is good, and then continue the way that we continued for past centuries, right? Okay, again, I come back to ideal markets, right? Ideal markets, for example, pen. This is an ideal market. There are many manufacturers, many prices, many markets, and many buyers, and many sellers, right? And if someone is offering this pen whose worth is only $3, but if he's, 3 rupees, and if he or she is selling at about 10 rupees, as a buyer, you have a choice. Oh, no, I don't need that sophisticated pen. I can go to somewhere else and then I buy Reynolds. There's other pen, right? That's coming at $4, 4 rupees, let's say. So you got multiple choices there. And same with restaurants. One restaurant is, heavily pricing, putting high prices on everything. Then you go to another restaurant. You can shop around. That is ideal market, right? Have you heard of this? Price and volume, demand supply curves. You're familiar with that concept, right? This is your supply curve and that's your demand curve. When prices increase, your demand decreases, right? And then that will set your price. Where both will interact, that will set your price, right? These are very familiar concepts. So one important attribute of a ideal market is many buyers and many sellers, and market information is clear to everyone. Combination, yeah, and many sellers means that's mono. But then there are substitutes available. So as I said, if not this pen, I go to some other pen, right? In an ideal market condition. And there are no barriers to entry. Anyone can manufacture it because there's more demand for that. So many manufacture and perfect information. And also co-production, size of market, low short-term elasticity, and etc., etc. But when it comes to most critical mineral markets, as you can see, the crosses, they are non-homogeneous products. Again, if you look at copper is more homogeneous, right? You bring it to 99.999% purity, and then some copper goes into making electric cables, some copper goes into making pipes for plumbing fittings, some copper goes into sheets, some copper goes into different, but pretty much uniform or homogeneous product, right? If the copper metal price goes up, and it's a very good conducting material and non-corrosive material, it's good. But if copper prices shoot up, we have an alternative material, right? A lot of places already we use aluminum in replacement of copper. Even for wiring also, electric wiring, right? So that's where you have got all that substitutes available. But in most critical minerals, we do not have many of that, not many buyers, because buyers are very limited. Only the countries or companies which are into manufacturing of those specific products only need them. Not everyone. How many countries we have in the world?
24.
Can we look up a Google search? Can we do a Google search? How many countries in the world? How many countries are, sorry? Some 194, it's right? Yeah.
We have 220 countries.
Yeah. But not every country, like Somalia doesn't need critical minerals, right? I'm not trying to joke at them, but that's reality, right? They don't have manufacturing. They're still meeting their basic necessities, right? And likewise, not many sellers also. We talked extensively about who sells critical minerals and especially the magnets. What is the scenario of magnets?
China controls
98%, right? And what percentage of rare earths gets into magnets?
60%.
60?
60%.
No. That means you did not pay attention to my yesterday's lecture. What percentage of rare earths gets into? No. Sorry?
25 to
30%. Somewhere about 30%, 25 to 30% is what. So one thing that I used to do, like I normally do in my regular classes, if I have to teach my undergrad or master's classes, what I do is every time someone gives right answer, rest of the class has to do put together. Can you do that again, please, for our good? When I do that, I do it for two purposes. Most of my classes are in the afternoon, right? And in the afternoon, people come heavy bellies, right? And then there's always the tendency that they fall into a bit of monotonous. And Mohan's tone is monotonous, right? So I cannot be a good public speaker. So whenever they do, literally some people who are kind of bit of getting drowsy, they wake up, okay, and then start listening. So this, some of you who becomes teachers down the line should also kind of try out different ways, and then put people on spot so that at least this guy is going to ask me a question, so let me be attentive to listen to them. Yeah. So sovereign interference, low short-term elasticity. Short-term elasticity means there's not much flexibility. If you don't get, in the short term, you can't find an alternative, right? Long term, yes. So as now we were talking, Tesla is now considering completely getting away from rare earth magnet-driven motors, right?
They're driving towards induction.
Induction motors. Is that clear? So that means critical minerals are not purely ideal markets, because there are not meeting many ideal market characteristics. Top 4 EV producers have 73% of the market. What are the top 4? CATL, which is a Chinese company. BYD is again a Chinese company. LG is Samsung, like LG is Korean. It's good. Panasonic, which is Japan. Right? Chinese companies have about 57% of the market. So that's surely not it's not monopoly, but it's oligopolies. You know, right? These are the terms. Monopoly is held by one. Oligo means a few more. Yeah, a few more. And then, the other one is perfect market. It means you have many buyers and many sellers. So we're talking economics, by the way. So all engineers need to switch off your engineering brains, right? Then copper prices soared on Wednesday to their highest in 7 months. Again, this I think was from one of the lectures that I used. Wednesday to their highest in 7 months after Chinese smelters, which process half of the world's mined copper, agreed on a joint production cut. China's biggest copper smelters met in Beijing on blah, blah, blah. So that's one of the key geopolitical tectonic shift. China is threatening an export ban on rare earths. Again, this is again in 2003, but again, fast forward to February this year, again, we are into same problem. So they use that instrument quite effectively and quite oftenly. Exactly.
So you're very much price elastic.
Sorry, yeah, that's right. Yeah, price elastic. So again, an ideal market has many suppliers, many buyers, and a homogeneous product for which substitutes are available and perfect information, and none of them, as we have seen, are available. So again, I give this example of bananas to just understand these concepts, right? So you got banana, and for example, if price of banana increased by threefold, let's imagine, right? But as a buyer, we will have choices, other fruits. We can go for mangoes, we can go for apples, or we can go for oranges, right? So that's an example, because again, this is a slide that I used to use in my classes. I thought I'll bring it. So you got an option to shift. But again, if I say that I've got an improvised banana, which 3 people can consume. If you buy one banana, 3 people can consume. Then you don't mind spending a little more to buy that banana, but which is not possible in a shorter period of time, right? Over a longer period of time, if a lot of R&D would have gone into it, perhaps that has been a possibility. So we were talking about cost curve. That's why I kind of purposely introduce you to the cost and price and the profits. So what you have on the left-hand side is a cost curve for, I think this is also copper, right? Yeah, copper supply cost curve, 2015. It's slightly dated, but again, you can just relate that to current day also. There are many companies that are operating in the copper space. For example, Escondida, which is one of the company in Chile. And then Antamina, which is one of the Peruvian company. And that's why South America is rich in copper. Peru, Chile, Argentina, rich in copper. Yeah. And then Oyu Tolgoi, Elton Tyne. So these are some of the Indonesian companies, or some of the PNG based companies. And then what? Grasberg, which is again Indonesian copper. And then so on and so forth. What you're seeing is, here is the supply. So Escondida, they produce more copper. So wider the chart means the capacity that they can produce is more. Leaner means only that much. What costs are included here? So that is your mine site costs. This is mining costs. That is your transport of offsite cost, that's your smelting and refining cost, and that's your royalties. That's your total cost. And this is the price of the copper. Year-to-date copper price, 16 March 2015. So that's the price. This is what you produce it. This is what you get paid when you sell it in the market. Which companies are doing according to you well, based on this cost curve? So those who are on the cost curve until here, they are making profits, right? Reasonably well. The profit margin is lesser here. Profit margin is increasing as you go down further. So you want it to be always in this part of the cost curve whenever you are producing to be able to be profitable, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah,
That is one of the best.
DRC is it?
Yeah.
Which one is that? Which company? Think this one. Oh, that's DRC. DRC stands for Congo. Yeah. So those who are getting kind of exposed to some of these terminologies, for your sake, I'm repeating them, right? These are the companies which are not doing well, high end of the cost curve. And you don't want to operate at that lean margin either. You want it to be always in this space so that you make more profit and you have more dividends to your shareholders, then your capital raising becomes easier going forward, and then your expansion becomes easier. All right? Is that clear? What is the cost curve, how it is calculated, and what is the price? So profits are revenue minus cost. Revenue is that, and your cost is this. So you want it to be always as profitable as possible.
What would be the reason for the right now, they are more than they are spending more than what they get?
What do you reckon?
Based on the maybe the grade of the copper they receive. We can see there is a large increase in the cumulative. So they have a large share of the market, but still they're not making a lot of it.
Yeah, that's right. So grade is one issue for sure. Yeah, that's good. What else?
You're looking at geopolitical.
Optimization is another important thing. Absolutely. See, for example, Hindustan Zinc in India is a classic case how Hindustan Zinc had a transformational journey. Hindustan Zinc used to be part of HZL, which was a public sector undertaking. And then Vedanta took over. The same company started making huge profits. Right? So there's always a lot of times I don't keep very close watch on what's happening. HAL. Right? So a lot of the time opposition uses HAL and then tries to grill the government, to put government on the back foot. Say, why are you not giving contracts to HAL? Why are you giving it to Anil Ambani? You would have seen private company going into a private company and going into a public undertaking. You will see change from the gate itself, right? As soon as you enter the gate, you will see the change. In the private, everything is spick and span, well maintained. Because recently I was listening to Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, Chandrababu Naidu Garu. He, I think, daughter of Narayana, P. Narayana was interviewing him. Said, how do you achieve this? One of the points that he made is very, very interesting to me. He said, Narayana can fire any people. Narayana group of institutions. He was referring to, like he was my teacher also. Back in those days, he used to teach probability to us. Always smile. No, he would say, we have a die, you roll it. Telugulo cheppevara. ఇప్పుడు మన దగ్గర ఒక పాచిక ఉంది, ఇట్లా వేసాము, అండ్ వెరీ very nice way of explaining things, complex things in a simplest way. So he said, Narayana was in the audience and said, Narayana Garu can fire any people, any number of people, because it's a private entity. If I don't like you, you're out of the door. But in the government, you do not have that luxury, right? See, these are IAS officers, these are RDOs, these are MROs. They come through a process. There's only hiring but no firing business, unless they are involved in very fraudulent practices, caught red-handed. You cannot do that. I have to manage. I'm given a team. I have to manage within that team. So that same thing. It comes down to Hatti Gold Mines is another example, because I took my training when Hatti Gold Mines was doing very profitable business back in those days. One of the very successful public undertaking. But I could see a lot of inefficiencies. As a student, I used to see that. Now, Hatti Gold Mines is barely operating, barely making little profit, just because about 1,500 people are dependent on that mine. Government is operating. That's a state government-owned entity, Government of Karnataka. So likewise, Singareni was another example. Singareni Collieries, those who are familiar. Singareni Collieries is one of the public sector undertaking which used to produce coal for power generation of state-owned enterprise. I think it's 49 and 50%. 50% state and 49% central government. It was referred to BIFR back in those days. I used to remember, because a lot of this particular region of erstwhile Andhra Pradesh was Naxal infested, a lot of Naxal movement. It was at its peak, industrial unrest and so on and so forth. So it was finally referred to BIFR. Do you know what is BIFR means? Again, economics. Board of Industrial and Financial Reconstruction, BIFR. And the credit goes to two very diligent IAS officers to completely transform. Again, that happened during Chandrababu Naidu's period as Chief Minister of the combined Andhra Pradesh state. So one APVN Sharma was one, and then one RH Khwaja. These are the two gentlemen who successively led this organization. It was a sick industry, almost dead industry. From there, now it has become a cash cow for Telangana state. Very transformative journey. Again, so many ways, in which public sector undertakings don't work. That's why disinvestment in Prime Minister Vajpayee government, there was a exclusive ministry called Ministry of Disinvestment. Do you remember? Who was the minister responsible? Do you know Vajpayee? How many of you know Vajpayee? Most of you know, right? So there was one Mr. Arun Shourie. He was exclusively brought from media. He was, I think, editor-in-chief of Indian Express those days, and he was brought to lead that portfolio. How to disinvest. So more governance, less government is the principle. Now even the current government also is working along the same lines. Government as an entity, because there are so many things that you cannot do that you can do in a private entity. So efficiency surely is a big thing. Anyway, we are spending too much time. So market size, we were talking this a few times. If you look at, what is this? This is copper, 309, I think these are US billion dollars, US dollar billion. Market size we are talking of. Copper, and this is annual market, annual copper market size, 309 billion. Iron ore is about 275. Coal, I think this is from Australian point of view we are looking at. Sorry, for coal export, then aluminum, gold, nickel, and so on and so forth. So most of your critical minerals start here. From potash. Someone said that potash, You said potash, right? Yeah. Phosphorus. You know where phosphorus, potash are used? What is the main purpose? Fertilizer. NPK, right? NPK. N is what? Nitrogen. P, phosphorus. K is potash. So, where majority of world's potash comes from? Which part of the world? Little bit of Brazil, yeah.
Chile.
Morocco.
Canada, Belarus, and Russia. When Ukraine-Russia war broke out, there was huge panic in the world because everyone was dependent on potash supplies from Russia and Belarus. And West was in a bit of dilemma. Now you are saying ethical sourcing, and when a country gets into a war, you cannot stop, right? There's not that short-term elasticity of demand. It won't stop. Demand will continue because your agriculture will have to progress. Your farmers have to get. Otherwise, there will be farmer unrest in India if they don't get enough urea. So just imagine from the government policymakers' point of view, when so many dynamic changes are occurring every day basis. We are impatient, right? If you don't get fuel to your cars, you will curse the government. If the electricity goes off for an hour, the other day it happened when I was at Mantani, there was a big thunderstorm and then power cut, and that went off for about 3 hours. And even with under the fan also I was sweating, like I was in a steam room. I was telling, before coming to India, I used to go every week to sauna and spa because it was cold outside. So to sweat, you have to sweat to kind of get your toxins out of your body, right? I used to pay to go there, and here, without doing anything, just sitting also, I was sweating. So, yeah. So what I was saying is, the combined market cap of about 30 odd minerals is less than the market cap of just aluminium. About, I think, they are still here. 30 odd minerals. So, very tiny market. When Hindalco is dealing in billions, why would they be interested in 500 million worth of gallium? Hindalco produces a lot of aluminium, right? They also produce a lot of red mud. They know that they are losing a lot of value in terms of tailings in the form of gallium and rare earths. But again, the rare earth business is about 3 billion. Why would it matter to them when they are getting 20 or 30 billion? And that too very uncertain, right? Even if they produce, again, China can undercut you anytime. So that's the market. What we are looking at, these are Australia's critical minerals. That color is Australia's strategic mineral, and neither of them. Right? And then these are the global reserves, the position of Australia in terms of global reserves. Right? For example, if you look at zinc, Australia is number 2 in terms of reserves base, world's zinc reserves. No? Is that clear to everyone what I'm speaking so far? Little bit macroeconomics we are talking of. Who was talking macroeconomics? Yeah, macroeconomics. So we are looking at global picture. Think globally, act locally. Right? That's very important. So nickel, nickel has become a critical mineral in Australia because I told you, right? Did you read my nickel article? Nickel prices plummeted from $55,000 per ton to $16,000 per ton in a span of 3 months. $55,000 per ton to $16,000 per ton. Big jump, right? Sorry, big drop, huge drop. And BHP has a subsidiary called Nickel West. that's a subsidiary which produces nickel. So we are talking of BHP. In next slide, I'll show you the company market caps also. BHP, one of the big mining firms, BHP, Rio, Vale, and then there are a few Chinese companies, and then we have got Escondida, which we looked at, which is Chilean company, and then Nickel West. BHP has a subsidiary which is called Nickel West. That went bankrupt. They decided to put all their Nickel West operations in Australia under care and maintenance. Because what I said, the prices dropped from $55,000 a ton to $55,000 per ton to barely $16,000. You cannot adjust to that cost pressures, right? So you can only produce it at a cost that is practically possible, right? You can only do so much, but beyond that you cannot. You still have to pay for electricity, you have to pay for water, you have to pay for wages, salaries, reagents, royalties. You have squeezed everything, but yet you are barely making any profit. Again, going back to that cost curve thing, even after every single possible initiative, you are unable to bring your cost below the cost curve, below the price. Then you're out. Good, absolutely. Again, my second article is all about that stockpiling. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So 220 billion total market size for 31 Australian critical minerals, including 11 Australian critical minerals markets, less than 1 billion. Very tiny. 700,000 kilograms, we said, right? And gallium price is about $1,300 a kg. You can multiply 700,000 kilograms times 1,300. $1,300 a kg. How much it is? That's a total market size. Right? What's the number? 700,000 times 700,000 is 7 lakh times 1,300. That's a market size. 92 million. 91 million. 91 million is what BHP spends for teas and coffees, right? Or even probably that's also overestimate. Many critical minerals are likewise, yeah? Yeah, then I'll come to you something that is in the interest of you and you. So next couple of slides, I'm going to show you why you should venture into that, why you should venture into this. Right? What are we looking at here? This is again a very, very striking story. Lithium. Australia produces 50% of lithium concentrate. Nickel. Indonesia has lion's share, right? Cobalt. DRC of Congo. Yeah? Graphite. China, of course. Then rare earths are China. So cobalt is held by Congo. Nickel is held by Indonesia. Lithium by Australia. Copper by South America, Chile. None of these countries are good at, none of these countries are top battery manufacturers. And we have seen yesterday, when it came to battery value chain, we looked at, right? The total battery market is about $150 billion. When we are talking of numbers, $150 billion total battery market, world battery market, of which what value Australia derives is only 1.5%. 1.5% of 150 billion is how much? 1.5 billion. They are 50% lithium concentrate producers. Are you seeing what I'm saying? 150 billion, only 1.5 billion they get. So where is the value? As you move down the line, downwards. Right?
Is Australia focusing on setting up batteries?
Not so much, because again, Australia has got a lot of their own problems. It's only 2.5 billion. Hyderabad and a few cities in Telangana put together will be entire Australia population.
They have a vast geographical
Landscape is about 1.7 to 2 times bigger than India.
China is already having everything in this kind of resources in terms of it. If it could able to expand in the battery manufacturing and this electrical side also, so everything goes into one country.
No, it's happening, no?
So like, why is China able to capitalize on a market from where the raw material is from other countries? However, other countries who have a lot of resources, but they are not able to capitalize on that particular element. Example, Australia, it has, as you mentioned, 50% of lithium, but they are not able to capitalize on the EV market.
That's what, the market power keeps them. So, for example, you are in Australia and you want to start a graphite mine. When the graphite prices are high, graphite is very cheap, $1 a kg or $2 a kg. It's not expensive. And graphite is not a good example. But for example, you want to start something, gallium, $1,300, good price. You start. And there was a gallium production happening in Australia until 2008 or 9. A German company was doing it. But again, what China does, because they want to get maximum market power. That's something, again, I'm going to talk. There's a slide that I've kept. So what they do is they shift the supply curve, or the demand curve. So when you became enthusiastic when the prices were high and the demand, because when the prices are high means the demand is high, the supply is less, right? And then you began to produce. And the moment you come to production level, what I do as a China company, I flood the market. I do it because I made a lot of profit, so I'm happy to lose some money. Because a lot of that is controlled by state-owned enterprises. So state manipulates that to cut you off completely. How can you? Barely you can survive maybe 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. You will run out of money in your pocket. You can't even pay your salaries of your people. Then you're out of the game. Then again, I'll come back, increase the price again. See the tactics? Yeah. So that's the market power. Right? So yesterday I went to a shop in the, student housing area. Yeah, I don't want to name the shop. The guy, I required some service. नहीं, मेरे पास अभी समय नहीं है. There's only one place that you could get that service, right? But had there been a couple of other, then it's an ideal market. It's not ideal market. It's a critical matter. So anyway, we saw that picture yesterday, but that's the thing. Yeah. So then what you have is relatively small component costs. Buyers are always price sensitive. We are talking about price sensitivity. Yeah. They are less critically sensitive to low value inputs. A doubling of cost of lithium carbonate from the refining and processing state hardly make any difference to the overall cost. For example, you have a component, you have a phone, mobile phone, and they use very tiny, by the way, most critical minerals are required in very, very tiny concentration. You know that, right? In very components and devices, etc., etc. I think as far as your CFL bulbs, the rare earth oxide requirement is 0.0047 kilograms, or even grams, or kilograms, I think, 0.0047 kilograms. Very tiny, or grams, I have to check. So that means very tiny, but that tiny portion in that makes it efficient. LED lamps. If you don't have, then you will lose that efficiency. If you have them, you will have that efficiency. So for example, when you have the tiny concentration and then the price doubled. So if you're getting it for $100 or 100 rupees, now you'll get it for 103 rupees. You don't mind paying, right? You'll still, so that's exactly what you're saying here. Buyers will always pursue low cost, but are also concerned with security of supplies, right? That's as far as the companies are concerned. So what you have here is market value. Mine, concentrate, refined process, electrochemical, produced cells and assembly. That's what I was talking about, 120 US dollar million. So about 1.5 billion I was referring to. So what Australia gets from that is only insignificant value. Is everyone with me? Yeah. Then barriers to entry is another important market issue, economic issue here. So we look at here, major mining companies remains focused on bigger, bulkier products. We looked at copper, we looked at iron ore, we looked at aluminum, who are into 230, 250. What was the GDP of Telangana contribution we said? How many billion dollars? About 160 billion, right? So BHP is about 130 billion. One corporation. Again, you don't have to go by mere numbers. The service that you get, see, if I had to get a plumber to my house to fix a leaking tap in Australia, and for insurance reasons, I cannot do it. I have to still call a plumber, right? How much do you think I will have to pay? I better become, there was a joke that I was reading before I went to Australia that, one housewife calls a plumber and said, okay, he comes and fixes everything. So then finally, when it comes to paying the bill, he demands some $300 or something. Oh, better. Then she said that better I become a plumber. I pity that I'm an engineer. And he said, exactly, that's what I became. So he was an engineer and now plumber. So plumbing and electrician, all these are high-paying jobs in Western, because again, it's a people-based country, right? Hardly.
Even in Hyderabad.
Is it? Same.
Mostly in colony localities. That kind of electrician. They learn to major localities.
Yeah, and I had many leaking taps at my native place, which I fixed because there's no insurance issue here. You can fix anything, right? So, we see, it's not that we can't do, we can do, but only thing is for insurance and other purposes, they have to be, so they charge a lot. So you can see that, gold, coal, other critical minerals, iron ore, copper, and others. That's a kind of market share. So not big companies are not interested into this game. Hence, it's left to mid-tiers and juniors. But the problem with mid-tiers and juniors is capital raising. You're limited by what your grandfather has made up, right? Yes. But you require a little bit more money. And then if you go to a financial bank, they'll say, oh, no, you are not a Reliance. You're not a number.
200.
Exactly.
I've been to a bank for an industry.
Yeah.
say, what do you know about minerals? So you're asking them literally almost 100 questions.
The questions are fine, but on top they will say, "Oh, sorry, we don't have money now."
Once we start the production, we'll
Yeah.
You buy machines without. How can you build a product?
Yeah. Unless you say, for example, like governments, in that case, governments play a key role. So you have to, that's why you have to lobby with the governments governments speak as a guarantor between you and the bank, and then banks will lend you money. Unless you are one of the Reliances or Adanis or Ambanis, then you get, of course, you don't have a problem of cash. You are cash surplus there, right? And there's nothing wrong in Reliance or Ambani. I'm not trying to demean them. And they've proven track record. They've shown that, wealth can be made, multiplied time and again. There's nothing wrong in investing in wealthier firms. So top 4 mining companies, primary production, if you look at, here we look at Vale, I was talking about, the top 4 BHP, Rio, Vale, and which is a Glencore. So, which is about $72 billion. Vale is about 55, and Coal India is also about $55 billion company. And NTPC we were talking about, that's also, yeah. Yeah. So, top 4 mining companies, primary production. So again, just to give you some kind of assessment or at least idea of where do we stand. BHP is 145 billion, right? That's close to Telangana's GNP. Yeah, GNP.
In the last time you mentioned that the barrier to entry most companies doesn't want to get into it. Is it because of strict government rules or is it because they are aware about it? Because they will think with that profit that you said. Or is it because of innovation?
Multiple reasons, right? Multiple reasons. One is capital, and then big companies, when you have full on your plate, you don't look around, right? Example. And then smaller players like our friends in the room, I'm not saying that you're small, sorry. Not literally. In a sense, what I'm saying is lack capital.
Big companies has capital.
But big companies are not interested. When Hindalco is already making billions of dollars, why they would be interested in that gallium? What is the market size? We said some millions. How many millions was that? 700,000 times per kilogram. 700,000 kilograms per times 1,300 per kilogram. So 91 million. Again, as I said, it's for coffees they use that money. Then already they have a capacity issue. They don't want to take on further. So that's a problem. Everything clear here? Yeah. The next one is the production of many critical minerals is dominated by co-production. That we saw, that metal wheel, right? Gallium, tellurium. Tellurium with what? Huh? No, tellurium. How do you source tellurium currently? एक डंडा लेके आओ भाई, एक डंडा लेके आओ. Tellurium क्या हो रहा है? Which is the metal? Copper. Yeah, I see. That's fine. So tellurium is copper. Selenium and tellurium. Germanium? Zinc, sphalerite, yeah. So that's another issue here, what you see. Again, we saw this map slightly different way. Mine in 1950s, critical minerals. This is in 2000s, co-production. This was from one of our papers, book chapters that we had contributed. Clear? Yeah?
This was along with the Professor.
David Whittle. Yeah. Oh, he's a gem. In fact, I'll get a couple of my colleagues from Australia. One is Professor Stuart Walsh and Professor David Whittle. Maybe they'll give, each one of them will give about half an hour presentations. Yeah? You're all most welcome to Australia and Monash whenever you get a chance. And our friend is coming shortly, so he's waiting for the visa, right? Yeah. Again, same thing. What were we saying? For mining company, co-production. So I was telling about BHP and Olympic Dam, right? OD. BHP, do you remember Olympic Dam? Where in Australia? Olympic Dam. Where? Which part of Australia? No. And tomorrow onwards, I'll come with a gun. South Australia. Yeah. It's a mine operated by BHP. What are the metals they mine for? Uranium is one, but the primary metal is copper. Then gold and silver. These are byproducts. And now they are thinking of extracting tellurium also, because it's a copper. Right? But if you look at the tailings dams of this mine, that is the second largest. What did I say?
Second largest
Deposit. And I also gave you another example of Century zinc mine, which has become fourth largest zinc deposit. The tailings. Only tailings. So the tailings of that mine are second largest. Yeah. Like they're second largest after Bay and Obo in China. Yeah. Clear? Co-production and volatility in markets. You can see, look at that. And the nickel example was another one which I just gave you. And you read my article in the conversation. Nickel prices plummeted from $50,000 to $16,000 suddenly. That's neodymium. And that's lithium carbonate. Lithium carbonate, see, look at that, how many fold decrease? Huh? So this is a common thing. And minerals are cyclical in nature. The commodity prices. Commodity prices are traded across various stock exchanges, including LME, London,
Yes.
and then Australia, and then Toronto, then New York, all these, but mainly London Stock Exchange. Yeah, volatility is another one. Then substitution, battery chemistry example. So we were talking about different battery chemistry, right? LCO, lithium cobalt oxide, lithium manganese oxide, lithium titanium oxide. Then you got LFP, lithium iron phosphate. India is going heavily with this one because that does not require nickel, that does not require cobalt. And then what else? Cobalt, nickel. What else it doesn't need? Yeah, even manganese, it doesn't need manganese. Yeah. And then lithium, nickel, cobalt, aluminum oxide, lithium, nickel, NMC, So all of that consideration also. Yeah.
Lithium ion batteries, those are lithium ion phosphate.
No, lithium is lithium ion. Lithium, when you say lithium ions. Yeah. I'm not a chemical engineer, but our chemical engineering friends can throw some light how these battery chemistries work.
Don't work in that.
Space. Yeah, that's okay. But anyway,
It is first two. We have to rely on cobalt and lithium.
yeah, that's right.
So LFP decreases our reliance. Now we have a lot of lithium, but nickel, manganese, refineries.
Absolutely.
So when we say about lithium ion batteries, then that means it's the lithium ion. Yes, same thing.
No, but it will also have iron and phosphate or manganese or blah, blah, blah. I told you, right? One example. So typical Tesla battery is about, like if you look at 60 kilowatt hour, again, I'm telling this, 60 kilowatt hour capacity. That will last for about, say, how many, what's the typical mileage that you get? About 300 kilometers once fully charged. About 300, let's say. More than 400? 4 to 6. Okay, 4 to 600 kilometers of distance you can travel. That requires about 180 kilograms of minerals, of which you require about 5 to 7 kilogram of lithium, 5 to 6 kilogram of lithium, and then about 30 kilogram of nickel, and cobalt around 20 kilograms, copper about 20, aluminum about 20, about 60 kilogram of graphite. That's a typical thing, yeah? In fact, one of my colleagues at Monash, they have come up with a new battery, which is lithium sulfur battery. That is mainly for drone applications, unmanned aerial vehicles, drone applications. Now they're having some kind of agreement with Amara Raja Group. You know Amara Raja, right? Yeah, time up. So I got another 200 slides, and let's wrap it up. So substitutions, as I said, now Tesla is going back to EV motors, electric vehicle motors with no rare earth elements. That means induction motors. Induction motors. When you don't have, you still need navigation, so you have to work alternative ways. Securing finances, again, we touched upon that a little bit. So if you are a big company, securing finance is easy because you have a reputation to kind of bet upon. But if you are a starter, no one spends. Most startups face this problem, right? All those who are in the startup business, they face this problem, right? Yeah. So for example, there is Australian Strategic Minerals. They own a mine in north central New South Wales. Sydney is New South Wales capital, right? And they produce rare earth oxide concentrate and they ship it to Korea where they make magnets. And then so any downstream processing in Australia is very expensive. That's why they don't do. Why you asked me why they don't do? Because it's very, human capital is very limited and energy cost is too high, regulations are too strict, and it takes a lot of time to start the projects and so on and so forth. So that's one of the problems. Raising capital is a big thing. And again, when you have so much of market uncertainty, who wants to bet their odds on you, right? So select clean energy metals. Again, if you look at here, lithium, nickel, graphite, rare earths, you see AU geological potential. AU means Australia. Australia's share of resources, etc., etc. So again, applications and then substitution risks also listed there. So this is a fairly common attribute of critical minerals. So if you look at the rare earths, again, this is a very classic example. So if you look at this is which year was that? 2019. So these are the resources, right? Held by, so China tops, Brazil, Vietnam number 3, India number 5, Australia number 6, and so on. Production wise, 2015 we were producing 170,000 tons. Yeah, but today it's about close to 300,000 tons. That means 3 lakh tons. Yeah? Look at this, rare earths. Only their demand went skyrocketing in the past half a century. From here onwards, they're going up. Again, if you look at this particular peak from this to here is exponential. That growth phase is all about energy transition. Yeah, so a fairly common thing is, so this is what I was saying, inelastic demand and then supply. So how China tactically manages that, you increase the demand and you oversupply so that the prices drop. That's again a little bit of economic concept, which probably I'll touch upon when we meet again next time. So again, you look at lithium cost curve here. There are different companies, and then you got nickel cost curve here, and then some non-technical risks. So anyway, I think given that we are a little over time, so I'll stop here, and then last few slides I'll touch upon in the next lecture when we meet. So tomorrow I'm not meeting because I'm fully engaged with the Australia-India workshop. I'll send you the link if you can, because again, that will conflict with this workshop, so you won't be able to join. That's why I don't have any lecture tomorrow. So I'll see you on 15th August is a holiday. Happy Independence Day to all of you in advance. And I think 16th also, Professor Dr. T. Srinivas is coming. So you will see me again on 18th, right? Yeah. Thank you.
We don't have any session in the afternoon, sir.
Today, no?
No, sir. You're asking us to make the presentations maybe on next time.